The mahogany conference table at Chin and Associates Investment Group gleamed under recessed lighting. 20 floors above Manhattan's financial district, my father's corner office offered views of the Hudson River and enough square footage to house a small family. I sat in the least expensive chair, the one reserved for interns and disappointing children, while my brother Marcus occupied the leather throne to Dad's right. So, Emma. Dad didn't look up from the document I'd spent 3 months preparing. You want us to invest $800,000 in this. What did you call it? Data stream analytics, I said quietly. It's a predictive algorithm for data analysis. Marcus cut me off, his Princeton ring catching the light as he gestured dismissively. Yeah, we read the summary. All 5 pages of buzzwords and wishful thinking. It's a 40-page proposal, I corrected. The summary is 5 pages. The technical specifications, market analysis, and financial projections make up the rest. Right. Marcus leaned back, his $3,000 suit straining slightly across his shoulders. At 32, he'd been working at Dad's firm for 8 years, managing portfolios worth hundreds of millions. Emma, let me save us all some time. This is garbage. Dad's pen paused on the document. He still hadn't looked at me. Marcus, let her present. Why? So she can waste more of our time with her little computer project. Marcus shook his head. Dad, she's 29 years old. She's been out of college for 7 years. She's never held a real job, never managed a team, never done anything except play around with coding tutorials in her apartment. I have a degree in computer science from MIT, I said. Which you've done nothing with. Marcus finally met my eyes. Emma, your business ideas are jokes. They've always been jokes. Remember the app you wanted to build in college? The one that would revolutionize social networking? Or the platform you pitched 3 years ago that was going to transform online education? Those were different. They were failures. Just like this will be. Marcus tapped my proposal with one finger. Data stream analytics. Sounds impressive. But you know what it actually is? It's another half-baked idea from someone who thinks watching YouTube videos about entrepreneurship makes them qualified to run a company. I kept my hands folded in my lap, my voice steady. I've spent 4 years developing this algorithm. I've run it against real market data. The predictive accuracy is. Let me stop you right there. Dad finally looked up, his reading glasses perched on his nose. Robert Chin had built his investment firm from nothing, turning a small inheritance into a $400 million operation. He was brilliant with money, ruthless in business, and utterly convinced that his children's worth was measured by their ability to match his success. Emma, I've been in this business for 35 years. I've seen thousands of pitches. And I can tell you right now, this isn't going anywhere. You haven't even read the technical section. I don't need to. He removed his glasses, folding them with careful precision. You're asking for $800,000. Do you have any idea what kind of due diligence we do before investing that kind of money? What kind of track record we expect to see? I know it's a significant amount. It's not the amount, Marcus interrupted. It's the fact that you have zero credibility. No business experience. No successful ventures. Nothing that would make any serious investor look twice at this proposal. I have the algorithm, I said. I have proof of concept. I have beta testing results from what? Your friends? Other failed entrepreneurs you met on Reddit. Marcus laughed, the sound sharp and cruel. Emma, come on. This is embarrassing. Dad closed the proposal, pushing it across the table toward me. I appreciate you putting this together. I can see you worked hard on it. But Marcus is right. You need real-world experience before anyone will take you seriously. I have experience. Coding in your apartment isn't experience, Dad said. Managing a team is experience. Meeting payroll is experience. Making hard decisions about people's livelihoods, that's experience. You have none of that. So I should just give up? I'm saying you should be realistic. Dad stood, signaling the meeting was over. Get a real job. Entry level if that's what it takes. Work your way up. Learn how businesses actually operate. Then, in 5 or 10 years, if you still want to start a company, you'll have the credentials to back it up. Marcus stood as well, straightening his tie. Stick to entry level, Emma. Find a position at a tech company. Answer phones, organize files, whatever. Build a resume. Because right now, he gestured at my proposal. Right now, you're just another dreamer with a laptop and delusions of grandeur. I gathered my documents slowly, sliding them back into my worn leather portfolio. Thank you for your time, Emma. Dad's voice softened slightly. This isn't personal. This is business. And in business you need credibility. You don't have it yet. I nodded, not trusting my voice. I'd known this would be difficult. I'd known they wouldn't immediately embrace the idea. But some part of me, some small foolish part, had hoped they might at least consider it. That they might see past my lack of traditional credentials to the innovation I'd created. Close the door on your way out, Marcus said, already turning back to his computer. I left the conference room, walked past the assistant's desk and took the elevator down 20 floors. My reflection in the polished metal doors showed a young woman in a department store suit, holding a rejected proposal, trying not to cry. My phone buzzed as I stepped onto the street. A text from my mother. How did the meeting go? Did they agree to invest? I didn't respond. Instead, I walked to the nearest coffee shop and ordered a black coffee I couldn't really afford. My savings account had $3,847 in it. My apartment cost $2,200 a month. I had at best 2 months before I'd need to find that entry-level job Dad and Marcus insisted I needed. Or I could do what I'd been planning to do anyway. I pulled out my laptop, connected to the coffee shop's Wi-Fi, and opened an encrypted folder. Inside were documents I'd been preparing for 3 months. Incorporation papers for DataStream Analytics, trademark applications, and most importantly, a list of angel investors who specialized in early-stage tech companies. The proposal I'd shown Dad and Marcus was real. The algorithm was real. The beta testing results, from actual financial firms, not Reddit friends, were real. What I hadn't told them was that I'd already incorporated DataStream Analytics 6 months ago. That I'd already secured $200,000 in angel funding from a venture capital firm in Silicon Valley. That 3 major hedge funds were already beta testing my algorithm and reporting accuracy rates that exceeded anything currently on the market. I hadn't told them because I wanted to see if they'd support me on merit alone. If they'd believe in me, their daughter and sister, enough to invest based on the quality of the idea rather than external validation. Their answer had been clear. I spent the next 2 hours in that coffee shop responding to emails from my actual investors, reviewing code with my development team. Yes, Marcus, I had a team, and finalizing contracts with 2 new beta testing clients. At 4:47 p.m. my phone rang. Surgeon. My mother. Emma, darling, you haven't responded to my text. How did it go? It didn't. They rejected the proposal. Oh, sweetheart. Mom's sympathy was genuine, which somehow made it worse. I'm sure they had their reasons. They said I have no credibility. That I need to get an entry-level job and work my way up. Well, that's not unreasonable advice, is it? Your father started at the bottom. Dad started with a $500,000 inheritance from grandfather. Emma, that's not fair. It's accurate. Look, Mom, I have to go. I have a call with some clients. Clients? Her voice brightened. You mean you're moving forward anyway? I am. Without your father's investment? Emma, how can you possibly? I'll figure it out. I always do. I hung up before she could protest further. My next call was with the CEO of Bridgewater Analytics, a mid-size hedge fund that had been beta testing my algorithm for 6 weeks. They'd seen a 23% improvement in their predictive accuracy, enough to generate an additional $40 million in returns in just over a month. Emma. Robert Bridgewater's voice was warm over the phone. I was hoping you'd call. We need to talk about expanding our implementation. I'm listening. We want to integrate DataStream across all our portfolio management systems. Full deployment. And we're prepared to pay a premium for exclusive early access while you're still in beta. How much of a premium? $5 million for 6 months of exclusivity. After that, standard licensing fees based on assets under management. I kept my voice steady, professional, giving no indication that my hands were shaking. $5 million is acceptable. I'll have my lawyers draft the contract. Your lawyers? Robert chuckled. Emma, you're what, 27? 29. 29. And you already talk like a seasoned CEO. I like that. This algorithm of yours, it's the real deal. You know that, right? I do. Good. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I've been in this business 40 years and I've never seen anything like what you've built. After the call ended, I sat in the coffee shop and let myself breathe. $5 million. Not the $800,000 I'd asked Dad and Marcus for. $5 million. Over the next 3 months I kept my head down and worked. I didn't tell my family about Bridgewater's contract. I didn't mention when Goldman Sachs reached out, interested in beta testing. I said nothing when JP Morgan's quantitative analysis team scheduled a demo. I went to family dinners and smiled when Marcus talked about his latest deals. I nodded when Dad gave advice about networking and credential building. I stayed quiet when Mom suggested I look into graduate school programs, something practical like an MBA. And in the background, DataStream Analytics grew. By month 4 I had 12 major clients. By month 6, 23. The algorithm's performance was exceeding even my own projections. Hedge funds using DataStream were seeing accuracy improvements between 18% and 31%. In the world of financial prediction, those numbers were revolutionary. The angel investors who'd initially put in $200,000 were now sitting on equity worth $8 million. They wanted to invest more. Everyone wanted to invest more. I took second-round funding, $30 million from a consortium of venture capital firms. Third round came 4 months later. $120 million. My ownership stake remained at 73%, and DataStream Analytics valuation hit $2.4 billion. I was, on paper, worth $1.75 billion. I still lived in my $2,200 a month apartment. Still drove my 7-year-old Honda. Still wore department store suits to family dinners. Because I wanted to see how long it would take them to notice. The answer, it turned out, was 14 months. I was at Sunday dinner at my parents' Westchester estate. A monthly obligation I couldn't escape without causing family drama. When Marcus brought up a Bloomberg article he'd read. "There's this new analytics company making waves in the hedge fund world," he said, cutting into his steak. "DataStream something. Apparently they've got an algorithm that's actually delivering on the hype." Dad looked interested. "DataStream? Haven't heard of them. They're small. Private. But the performance numbers are insane." Marcus pulled out his phone, scrolling through the article. "Says here they're projecting $500 million in revenue this year. For a company that's barely 18 months old. What's their secret?" Dad asked. "Some kind of predictive algorithm. Machine learning, AI, all that buzzword stuff. But unlike most AI companies, this one actually works." Marcus paused, reading. "The founder is anonymous. Won't do interviews. Very secretive." I continued eating my salad, keeping my expression neutral. Mom smiled at me from across the table. "Emma, darling, this sounds like the kind of thing you were interested in. Didn't you have that proposal about data analysis?" "Something like that," I said quietly. "You should look into working for them," Dad suggested. "A company like that growing that fast, they'll need good people. It might be a way to get your foot in the door." "Maybe," I said. Marcus snorted. "Dad, they're not going to hire Emma. Companies like DataStream want people with elite credentials. MIT grads who've worked at Google or Facebook. Not someone who's been unemployed for the last year." "I haven't been unemployed. Freelancing doesn't count." Marcus waved his hand dismissively. "Trust me, Emma. Companies at that level aren't interested in resume gaps and failed proposals." I set down my fork carefully. "How do you know I've been freelancing? What else would you be doing? You're not working anywhere. You're not in grad school. You're just around." Marcus shrugged. "Look, I'm not trying to be harsh. I'm being realistic. You need to aim lower. Entry-level positions at established companies. Build a real resume." "Marcus is right," Dad said. "There's no shame in starting small, Emma. Everyone has to pay their dues. Some people more than others," I murmured. "What was that?" "Nothing. May I be excused? I have some work to finish." Mom frowned. "Work? It's Sunday. You should relax." "I have a deadline." I left before anyone could protest further, driving back to Manhattan in my Honda while Marcus probably climbed into his BMW and Dad into his Mercedes. That night I approved DataStream's IPO filing. We'd been planning it for months. My lawyers, my CFO, my board of directors. Everyone agreed the company was ready. The financials were strong. The client base was solid. The growth trajectory was sustainable. The IPO was scheduled for 3 weeks later. Mid-morning on a Thursday. I'd be ringing the opening bell at NASDAQ. I didn't tell my family. The night before the IPO, I had dinner with my parents and Marcus at their favorite restaurant in Midtown. An Italian place with white tablecloths and wine that cost more per bottle than my monthly rent. Emma, we wanted to talk to you about something, Mom said as the appetizers arrived. Your father and I are concerned. About what? About your future. Dad leaned forward, his voice gentle but firm. You're 29 years old. You're not getting any younger. And frankly, your lack of career progress is becoming worrying. Marcus nodded. We've been talking and we think you need professional help. Career counseling. Maybe therapy to work through whatever's blocking you from moving forward. I'm not blocked. Emma, you've been unemployed for over a year, Mom said. Living off savings doing odd jobs. That's not sustainable. And it's not healthy. We want to help you, Dad said. We've talked to a career counselor who specializes in helping young adults who've lost their direction. He's excellent. Very compassionate. I haven't lost my direction. Then what have you been doing? Marcus challenged. Seriously, Emma. What do you do all day? I took a sip of water, considering my answer. I could tell them. I could explain about DataStream, about the IPO happening in 12 hours, about the fact that by this time tomorrow, I'd be one of the youngest self-made billionaires in technology. But I didn't. I've been working on projects, I said instead. Projects. Marcus laughed. Right. More business proposals that will never go anywhere. Something like that. Dad sighed. Emma, please. Take this seriously. We're offering to help. To pay for counseling, to use our connections to get you interviews. But you have to meet us halfway. What kind of interviews? Entry-level positions, Marcus said. Administrative work, junior analyst roles. Things appropriate to your experience level. My experience level. Yes. You need to be realistic about where you are in your career. Marcus leaned back as the waiter delivered his entree. Look, I know it's hard to accept that you're starting from zero at almost 30. But that's the reality. The sooner you embrace it, the sooner you can start building something real. I nodded slowly. You're right. I should be more realistic. Good. Mom beamed. That's a mature attitude, sweetheart. We're proud of you for listening. I've actually been thinking about making some changes, I continued. Big changes. That's wonderful, Dad said. What kind of changes? I'll tell you tomorrow. After the market opens. Marcus frowned. After the market opens? What does that have to do with anything? You'll see. The next morning I woke at 5 a.m. I showered, dressed in a navy suit I'd had custom-made for this occasion, and took a car service to Times Square. The NASDAQ building was already buzzing with activity. Camera crews, journalists, analysts waiting for the morning's biggest IPO. DataStream Analytics. Opening price projected at $87 per share. My CFO met me in the lobby grinning. Ready to become very publicly wealthy? Ready as I'll ever be. At 9:30 a.m. exactly, I stood on the NASDAQ platform and rang the opening bell. Cameras flashed. Journalists shouted questions. The digital displays showed DataStream's ticker symbol lighting up, shares trading, the price climbing. $87, $94, $103, $118. By 9:45 a.m., DataStream Analytics had a market capitalization of $7.2 billion. My 73% stake was worth $5.26 billion. My phone started buzzing immediately. Texts, calls, emails. But I ignored them all except one. A Bloomberg news alert. DataStream Analytics IPO surges 35% in first 15 minutes. Founder Emma Chin, 29, now worth $5.8 billion. I smiled at the screen, then took a car service to Lower Manhattan. To my father's office building. To Chin and Associates Investment Group. The receptionist looked startled when I walked in. Miss Chin, I didn't know you had a meeting scheduled. I don't. Is my father in? Yes, but he's with a client. I'll wait. I sat in the reception area, the same place I'd waited 14 months ago with my rejected proposal. The Bloomberg terminal in the corner was showing the market. DataStream's ticker prominently displayed as one of the day's biggest movers. 10 minutes later, Dad emerged from his office with a client. He stopped short when he saw me. Emma, what are you doing here? I wanted to talk to you about that career counseling. Dad glanced at his watch. Can it wait? I have a busy morning. It won't take long. I stood, gesturing to his office. Just a few minutes. He sighed but led me inside. Marcus was already there, sitting at the Bloomberg terminal, his face pale. Emma, Marcus said slowly, not looking away from the screen. There's a company that went public this morning. DataStream Analytics. I heard. The founder is named Emma Chin. Common name, I said lightly. Emma. Dad's voice was sharp. What's going on? Marcus finally turned to face me. Tell me this isn't you. This isn't me, I said. Then I paused. Actually, that's a lie. It is me. The silence in the office was absolute. What? Dad's voice was barely a whisper. I pulled out my phone, opening the Bloomberg article. DataStream Analytics went public this morning. Opening price was $87 per share. It's currently trading at $121. The company's market cap is $7.2 billion. I own 73% of the company, which makes my net worth approximately $5.8 billion. Marcus stood abruptly, his chair rolling backward. That's impossible. It's actually quite possible. I incorporated the company 14 months ago, right after you rejected my proposal for $800,000. Dad grabbed my phone, staring at the article. His face went through several shades of red and white. This can't be real. It's real. You can check the NASDAQ listings, or Bloomberg, or any financial news outlet. DataStream Analytics is the biggest IPO of the quarter. But you said, Marcus stopped, his voice strangled. You said you were freelancing. You said you had no clients. I lied. Well, technically I deflected. You assumed I had no clients. I didn't correct you. Why? Dad's voice cracked. Why wouldn't you tell us? Because I wanted to see if you'd support me without external validation. If you'd believe in me based on the quality of my work rather than my credentials. I met his eyes. You didn't. Emma, we didn't know. You didn't want to know. I showed you a 40-page proposal with technical specifications, market analysis and financial projections. You read 5 pages and dismissed it as buzzwords and wishful thinking. Marcus sank back into his chair. The algorithm you showed us. That was DataStream. Yes. And you already had funding? I had $200,000 from angel investors. I was looking for family support. Not just money support. Belief. The sense that you thought I could actually succeed. We do think. You thought I needed therapy to work through my career blocks. I kept my voice level, professional. You thought I should aim for entry-level administrative positions. You thought my business ideas were jokes. Dad set down my phone carefully as if it might explode. I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything. I just wanted you to know. Before you saw it on Bloomberg. Before clients started asking if you were related to the Emma Chin from DataStream Analytics. Jesus Christ. Marcus was staring at the terminal again, where DataStream's stock price continued to climb. You're worth almost $6 billion. $5.8 billion currently. Though it fluctuates. And you've been living in that tiny apartment? Driving that old Honda. I like my apartment. And the Honda runs fine. Dad finally found his voice. We made a mistake. A terrible mistake. If we'd known. If you'd known, you would have invested. But you didn't know and you dismissed me anyway. That's the point, Dad. You judged me based on your assumptions rather than my actual capabilities. We were trying to protect you. You were trying to protect your own egos. You couldn't accept that I might actually know more about this industry than you do. That my buzzwords were actually cutting-edge technology. That my wishful thinking was based on solid research and development. The office phone rang. Dad's assistant, Mr. Chin? You have several calls holding. Bloomberg News, CNBC, The Wall Street Journal. They're all asking if you're related to Emma Chin from DataStream Analytics. Dad pressed the intercom button. Tell them I'll call back. They're quite insistent, sir. I said I'll call back. He released the button and turned to me. Emma, please. Let us fix this. Let us invest now. We can be part of DataStream's growth. DataStream doesn't need your investment. We're fully funded. Then let us help in other ways. Connections advice. I have advisors. Very good ones. Marcus stood again, running his hands through his hair. This is insane. You've been sitting at family dinners listening to us give you career advice while you're running a multi-billion-dollar company. Yes. Why? Why would you do that? Because I wanted you to see me. Not my bank account. Not my credentials. Me. And I wanted to see how you'd treat someone you thought was beneath you. I picked up my phone. How I know. Emma, you're our family. Mom's voice came from the doorway. She stood there in a Chanel suit, her face pale. I just saw the news. Emma, baby, why didn't you tell us? Because you wouldn't have listened. You never listen. That's not fair. Mom, you suggested I go to grad school for something practical, while I was already running a company with $500 million in revenue. Dad told me to get an entry-level job while I was managing a team of 47 employees. Marcus called my business ideas jokes while hedge funds were paying millions to use my algorithm. Mom's eyes filled with tears. We were trying to help. You were trying to make me fit your definition of success. When I didn't, you decided I was the problem. A knock on the door. Dad's assistant again, looking flustered. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but there are journalists in the lobby. They're asking to speak with Emma Chin. Tell them no comment, I said. I have a PR team handling all media inquiries. The assistant nodded and disappeared. Dad was still holding my phone, staring at the Bloomberg article like it might reveal different information if he looked long enough. Emma, I don't know how to. What do you want from us? Nothing. I don't want anything from you. But you're our daughter. Your family. Surely we can. Can what? Pretend the last 14 months didn't happen? Pretend you believed in me all along? I shook my head. I'm not interested in rewriting history. Marcus finally spoke, his voice small. The proposal you showed us. The one I called garbage. That was worth billions. Yes. And I told you to stick to entry-level work. You did. Emma, He stopped, unable to finish the sentence. It's fine, Marcus. You were honest about what you thought of me. I appreciate that. It's not fine. Nothing about this is fine. Marcus stood abruptly, knocking papers off the desk. You let us humiliate ourselves. You sat there at dinner while we talked about helping you find a job and you didn't say anything. Would you have believed me if I had? The question hung in the air. If I'd told you at that dinner that I was running a multi-billion-dollar company, I continued, what would you have said? Would you have asked for proof? Would you have assumed I was delusional? Or would you have listened? Marcus didn't answer. That's what I thought, I said quietly. Dad finally set down my phone. What happens now? Now, I go back to work. I have meetings with institutional investors this afternoon. Tomorrow I'm speaking at a conference about AI applications in financial services. Next week I'm testifying before Congress about data privacy regulations. Congress. Mom's voice was faint. Yes. Apparently when you're running a company that handles billions of dollars in financial data, legislators want to talk to you. I moved toward the door. I should go. I have a car waiting. Emma, please. Dad's voice stopped me. Don't leave like this. We made mistakes. Let us make it right. I turned back. How would you make it right, Dad? Would you invest in DataStream now? After you know it's successful? After Bloomberg published my net worth? Yes. Of course we would. That's the problem. You'd invest now because you know it's a safe bet. Because my success has been validated by external sources. But when I needed you to believe in me, when I needed you to see potential instead of credentials, you couldn't do it. We didn't understand. You didn't try to understand. You saw a 29-year-old woman with no traditional career path and decided I was a failure. You never asked about my work. Never looked at my code. Never considered that maybe, just maybe, I knew what I was doing. Marcus approached slowly like he was afraid I might bolt. Emma, I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. The things I said to you, calling your ideas jokes, telling you to aim lower, I was wrong. Completely, utterly wrong. You were honest. You told me exactly what you thought of my capabilities. I was an asshole. I was a condescending, dismissive asshole who couldn't see past his own ego. Marcus's voice cracked. You're my sister. I should have supported you. I should have listened. Instead, I treated you like you were stupid. You treated me like I was worthless, I corrected. There's a difference. Emma. I'm not saying this to hurt you. I'm saying it because it's true. You measured my worth by your standards. Ivy League degree, traditional career path, visible markers of success. When I didn't have those things, you decided I had nothing to offer. Dad moved to stand beside Marcus. We failed you. As parents, as family, we failed to see what you were building. And I don't know how to fix that. You can't fix it. You can only learn from it. I checked my watch. A simple Timex I'd worn for years, not the luxury timepiece I could now easily afford. I need to go. I have a board meeting in an hour. A board meeting. Mom laughed, the sound slightly hysterical. Our daughter has board meetings. And we didn't even know. You would have known if you'd asked. If you'd shown any interest in my life beyond disappointment. That's not fair. Mom, you cried at Christmas because I didn't have a real career. You told your friends I was still figuring things out. You pitied me. I met her eyes. Well, now you don't have to. I've figured it out. I left before anyone could respond, taking the elevator down 20 floors for the second time in 14 months. But this time, when I saw my reflection in the polished metal doors, I didn't see a disappointed daughter with a rejected proposal. I saw a CEO, a founder, a self-made billionaire who'd built something revolutionary while her family told her to aim lower. My phone rang as I reached the street. Sarah, my head of PR. Emma, the press is going crazy. Every major outlet wants an interview. And your family. What about my family? Your father's firm issued a statement claiming they were instrumental in supporting DataStream's early development. I stopped walking. They what? It went out 10 minutes ago. To Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal, CNBC. They're taking credit for your success. Of course they were. Issue a correction, I said. Make it clear that DataStream received no funding or support from Chin and Associates. Include the timeline, that I approached them for investment 14 months ago and was rejected. Emma, are you sure? That's going to create a media firestorm. I'm sure. The truth matters. Hey. I'll draft something and send it for your approval. I hung up and continued walking to where my driver waited. Not a Honda anymore. I'd finally upgraded to a Tesla, though I still lived in the same apartment. Some changes were necessary. Others weren't. That evening the correction went live. Every news outlet that had published my father's false statement ran updates with DataStream's version of events. The narrative shifted from supportive family helps daughter succeed to family rejects daughter's proposal, daughter builds billion-dollar company anyway. Social media exploded. Hashtag DataStream Emma trended for 3 days. Think pieces appeared about family dynamics, gender bias in investment decisions, and the importance of believing in unconventional paths to success. My parents' phones wouldn't stop ringing. Marcus's LinkedIn was flooded with comments. Chin and Associates' reputation took a visible hit. Several clients quietly moved their portfolios elsewhere, uncomfortable with the firm's treatment of their own family member. I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. A week later, I was sitting in my office. A corner space with views of the Hudson River 23 floors up in my own building, when my assistant buzzed. Emma, your father is here. He doesn't have an appointment, but he says it's urgent. I considered turning him away. Then, send him in. Dad entered slowly, looking smaller somehow. Older. He'd always been larger than life in my mind. The successful investor, the brilliant businessman, the father whose approval I desperately wanted. Now he just looked like a man who'd made a terrible mistake. Emma. Thank you for seeing me. You have 5 minutes. He nodded, sitting in the chair across from my desk. The expensive chair. The one I reserved for important clients. I'm not here to apologize, he said. I am sorry. Desperately sorry. But I know words don't fix what we did. Then why are you here? To tell you that you were right. About everything. We didn't listen. We didn't see you. We measured you against our expectations instead of your actual potential. He leaned forward. Emma, I've been in finance for 35 years. I've reviewed thousands of proposals. And that day in my office when you showed me DataStream, I should have recognized what I was looking at. But you didn't. I didn't because I couldn't see past my own prejudices. You were my daughter. You didn't have the traditional markers of success. So I dismissed you. He smiled sadly. I taught you to be brilliant and then I punished you for thinking differently than I do. Yes. I can't undo that. But I want you to know I see you now. I see what you built. And it's extraordinary. I didn't respond immediately. I looked at my father, at his expensive suit and his regret, and I felt nothing. No anger. No satisfaction. Just a quiet certainty that I'd been right to trust myself over his judgment. Thank you for saying that, I said finally. But it doesn't change anything. I know. I wanted you to hear it. From me. That you were right and I was wrong, and what you built is more impressive than anything I've done in my entire career. Okay. He stood, moved toward the door, then stopped. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. Even though I have no right to be. Even though I did everything possible to undermine your confidence. You succeeded anyway. That's remarkable. After he left, I sat in my office and watched the sun set over the Hudson. My phone buzzed with notifications. Investor calls to return, media requests to decline, board decisions to make. I thought about that conference room 14 months ago. About Marcus calling my ideas jokes. About Dad telling me to stick to entry-level work. About the way they dismissed me without really listening. And I thought about now. About the Bloomberg headlines. About the NASDAQ opening bell. About the fact that datastream analytics was changing how the financial world understood predictive data. I'd built something extraordinary. Not because of my family's support, but in spite of their dismissal. And that was worth more than any apology could ever be. My phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. Saw your story on Bloomberg. Similar thing happened to me with my family. Just wanted to say, thank you for not backing down. You proved they were wrong. That matters. I smiled and saved the message. Because that was the point, wasn't it? Not revenge. Not proving them wrong for the sake of satisfaction. But showing that credibility isn't inherited or granted by traditional institutions. It's built. By people who refuse to accept other people's limitations. By dreamers with laptops who turn buzzwords into billions. By 29-year-old women who get rejected by their own families and build empires anyway. I turned back to my computer and opened the next quarterly projections. Datastream was growing faster than even our most optimistic models predicted. By this time next year, we'd likely be worth $15 billion. And my family would have to read about it on Bloomberg. Just like everyone else.